The crash wasn't quiet. Metal screamed. Fire burst through the clouds. The sky lit up like a second sun. Jacob slammed hard into the sand. Smoke rose behind him. Pieces of his escape pod still burned, scattered across the shore. He rolled over. Coughing, his leg throbbed. His wrist was swollen, but he was alive. The ocean roared behind him, endless and black. In front of him, thick jungle, tall trees, strange sounds. The air was hot and heavy, full of buzzing insects and a smell like sweet rot. His radio was dead. His beacon blinked weakly. The pod's food rations were smashed. He had one bottle of water and a flare. No one was coming. Not soon. He had trained for crash survival, but no training prepared him for a planet that wasn't on any map. The navigation logs were fried, and the system had called this world uncharted hostile class. Great Jacob grabbed what gear he could, his belt knife, the broken cum unit, and a torn emergency pack. He limped toward the tree line and built a crude shelter out of pod. Metal and palm-like leaves. He stayed awake all night, not because of fear, because something was watching. The feeling never left him. Like eyes behind the trees, like breath, on the back of his neck. In the morning, he found something strange. Next to his fire pit, placed neatly on a rock, sat a piece of bright purple fruit. It glowed softly under the sun. Jacob looked around, scanning the jungle. Nothing moved. No tracks, no footprints. No sign of how it got there. He didn't touch it. Not yet. He spent the day fixing the shelter, making traps for water. Scouting for dry branches. Every time he turned his back, he felt it again, that presence, silent, waiting. The second night, he didn't light a fire. He listened. The jungle whispered, chirped, howled. At one point, he thought he saw a figure, small and fast, darting between the trees. He called out, "Hello?" No answer. But when he awoke the next morning, there was another fruit. This time, a different kind. Yellow star dash shaped. Jacob didn't know what to think. Was someone feeding him, testing him, playing games? He took a risk. He bit the yellow fruit, sweet, like honey and mint. It didn't burn or hurt his mouth. His stomach didn't complain. That night, he left something behind. Half a protein bar from his emergency kit, placed where the fruit had been. He didn't expect a reply, but he got one. When the sun rose, the protein bar was gnawed in its place, a shell. Not just any shell, polished, spiral, carved. Someone had etched a symbol into it, a swirl with a small dot in the middle. A sign, a T. Jacob picked it up and whispered, "You're watching me." Why? Later that day, as he filled his makeshift canteen by a small stream, he caught a reflection, not his own. Across the water, just beyond the vines, stood a figure. She was barely taller than his chest, barefoot, wearing clothes made of leaf fiber and bone. Her skin shimmered soft gray with a faint glow under the shade. Her hair was long and violet, braided with tiny feathers. She didn't speak, her eyes deep silver. Like stars stared at him without blinking. Jacob slowly raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't move. A wind passed. Her hair lifted, the jungle hushed, and then, just as silently as she appeared, she vanished back into the green dot. Jacob stood frozen, heart pounding. That wasn't an animal. That wasn't a native beast. That was someone intelligent. He returned to the shelter, every step filled with questions. Who was she? Why hadn't she spoken? Why help him with fruit, but hide from his voice? He looked at the polished shell. Again, that night, he lit a fire knot for warmth, but as a signal. He sat beside it, staring at the jungle, whispering to the dark, "You don't have to hide." The flames cracked. The stars came out. And somewhere beyond the trees, silver eyes watched him. Asterisk the third night on the island was colder. Jacob had rebuilt the shelter tighter and lowered to the ground. He wrapped himself in silver blanket strips from the emergency kit, but the wind still crept in. But it wasn't the cold that kept him awake, it was her. The alien girl. He couldn't stop thinking about her silver eyes, the way she didn't speak, the way she disappeared like smoke. Was she alone? Was she dangerous? Jacob sat up and looked into the darkness. "If you're out there," he whispered, "you helped me. Thank you." No reply. Only the crackle of the fire and the endless jungle. Sounds. Then he heard something new. A soft shuffle. A light crunch of leaves. Close. He turned. Slowly she was there, standing near the edge of the fair ledge. Not hiding this time. Her head tilted slightly, as if curious. Her body was tense, ready to run, but not running. Jacob held his breath. She stepped forward, slowly, cautiously. Her bare feet made no sound. Her hands stayed by her sides. She didn't carry a weapon when she entered the full glow of the firelight. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. She wasn't just beautiful. She was unreal. Her skin had the softness of starlight. Her eyes, huge and round, shimmered with a silver mist. Her lips were dark blue, and her violet hair framed her face like strands of silk. A thin, vine-wrapped top covered her chest. Bone-like beads hung from her waist, and a cloth skirt moved gently with each step. Jacob didn't speak. He didn't want to scare her. Finally, she pointed at the fire, then to herself, then back to the jungle. He nodded slowly. "You want to stay?" She shook her head, then pointed again to him, this time, and touched her own chest. He blinked. You want me to come with you?" She nodded once. Jacob hesitated. It could be a trap, but something in her eyes worried. Urgency pushed him to trust. He stood up slowly. No sudden moves. She turned and walked, and he followed. They moved through the jungle. She was fast and silent. Jacob stumbled a few times. Branches scratched his arms. Strange insects buzzed after a few minutes. They reached a small clearing lit by glowing moss. In the middle sat a large flat stone, like a table. She walked to it, sat down, and motioned for him to do the same. He obeyed. Confused but calm. She touched her lips, then her heart, then pointed at him. Jacob watched her hands, then tried. He touched his chest. "Jacob." She blinked slowly, then repeated it. "Jacob." Abi smiled. "Yes, that's me." She hesitated, then touched her own chest. "Sella," she said softly. Her voice was like wind in the trees. Musical, gentle. Jacob nodded. "Sella." They sat in silence. Finally, she picked up a long stick and began to draw in the moss dust on the stone. She drew a round island. The jungle, the beach, and something else. Dark trees, black shapes. Twisted, her eyes turned serious. She pointed at those trees and shook her head, then looked into his eyes and said something in her language, sharp, firm. Jacob didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. Danger. Don't go. She wiped the drawing and looked at him. Eyes soft now. Then she reached behind her back and pulled out something wrapped in leaf cloth. A small pouch. She opened it and took out a piece of flat, white root. She offered it to him. Jacob took it. It smelled like mint. He chewed. Bitterness filled his mouth, followed by warmth. His head felt clearer. His tiredness faded. He looked at her in surprise. "Medicine?" he guessed. Sela nodded once, then leaned forward, gently touched his swollen wrist. Her fingers glowed faintly blue. Warmth spread through his arm. In seconds, the pain faded. Jacob stared. "You're a healer." She gave a small smile, then pulled her hand back and looked down like she was shy. He wanted to ask so many things. Where was she from? How long? Had she been here? Why didn't she leave? But he didn't have the words. And she didn't have his language. Still, something passed between them in that silence. Not fear, not threat, but a kind of fragile trust. Sella stood up and looked at the sky. The stars were shifting. She pointed back toward his shelter, then to herself, then made a stay-away motion with her hands. "Don't follow you?" he asked. She nodded. Then her voice, soft as a breath, whispered one more word. "Tomorrow." And just like that, she disappeared into the trees. Jacob stood there for a long time. His wrist no longer hurt. His fear was no longer sharp. And in his heart, a new feeling had started to grow. Hope. The next day, Sella didn't come. Jacob waited near the stream, near the glowing moss. Even returned to the stone table where she had healed him. But there was no sign of her. The jungle was quiet, too quiet. Birds chirped. Insects buzzed, but the sense of being watched was gone, and that made it worse. He felt alone again. He walked back to his shelter, thinking about her warning. Don't go beyond the black trees. She had drawn them so carefully, with crooked trunks and twisted branches. She had looked scared when she talked about them. But now, Jacob stared into the jungle. He saw them. Tall trees with black bark, almost like they were burned long ago. They formed a thick line, standing together like guards, blocking the deeper jungle. Curiosity burned in his chest. What was she hiding? Why was she so afraid of this part of the island? Jacob wasn't stupid. But he had that human flaw, the need to know. He grabbed his knife, checked his canteen, and stepped into the shadows of the black trees. The jungle changed. Instantly, the air grew colder, heavy, like he was walking underwater. The ground felt soft under his boots. Too soft, he didn't see animals. No birds, not even bugs, just silence. And the deeper he went, the stranger things became. The trees here weren't just black, they were wrong. Twisted in impossible ways. Some grew sideways. Others curved in two. Spirals, a few looked like they had faces in the bark, screaming silently. Jacob kept walking, heart thumping harder. Then, he found something. A stone platform. It looked ancient, cracked by time, half covered in moss and vines. But it was clearly not natural. Alien writing covered the sides. Symbols glowed faintly, just like the mark on the shell Sella had given him. He stepped closer. There were small holes in the platform. Something used to sit here. Something powerful. He brushed dust away and then he saw it. A picture, carved into the stone. It showed figures like Selatol, beautiful, with glowing eyes. And behind them, monsters, tall, clawed, shapeless things with empty faces. They rose from beneath the ground. The Sella-like figures were running from them. Some were falling. Some were being pulled underground, and one stood alone, arms glowing, facing the darkness. Was that Sella, or someone like her? Jacob backed away. Something about the carving made him feel cold inside. Then he heard it crunch behind him, not a branch breaking, not a footstep, slow, heavy. He spun around. There was nothing there but the shadows. Moved wrong. He started walking back, faster. His heart pounded in his ears. Another step, closer. He turned again on. This time he saw it, not clearly. Just shape. Tall, long arms. No face. Just white eyes glowing in the dark. Jacob ran. He didn't look back. He pushed through branches, scraped his arms, twisted his ankle. But he didn't stop. Something followed. It didn't roar. It didn't scream. It just followed. Step by step by step. He burst out from the black trees, falling to the ground. His chest heaved. His shirt was soaked in sweat. The normal jungle felt alive again. The sun was shining. Birds were calling. But behind him, the black trees stood still. He waited. Knife in hand, nothing came out. Whatever it was didn't cross the line. That night, he didn't sleep. He kept the fire high. His knife stayed in his hand. Every rustle made him jump. At midnight, she appeared. Sela. Silent, pale with anger. Or fear. Maybe both. She didn't come close. She stood at the tree line, arms crossed, shaking her head. Jacob walked to her slowly. "I'm sorry," he said. "I had to know." She pointed at his chest, at the scratches, the mud, the fear in his eyes. She didn't speak, but her voice came through in her expression. "You didn't listen." He lowered his head. "I saw something, a creature. It followed me." Sela's face changed, fear, then sadness. She stepped closer, reached into a pouch and pulled out a new shell. This one had red lines on its burn marks. She held it up to the firelight, then crushed it in her hand. Dust floated in the air, glowing red. She pointed to Jacob's chest, then drew a circle in the air around him, a mark. He didn't need words. He understood. "It knows me now." Asterisk, the wind changed. It wasn't just wind anymore. It carried a sound, a low hum too deep to be natural. It made the leaves tremble and the fire flicker sideways. The jungle, which had been alive with chirps and calls hours ago, had fallen into complete silence. Jacob and Sela stood by the fire, not speaking. She still hadn't forgiven him for entering the black trees. He could see it in her tight jaw, in the way she wouldn't meet his eyes. But now, even her anger had turned into something worse, fear. She held a carved bone charm in one hand and clutched it tightly. Jacob looked up at the stars, hoping to see anything, maybe a rescue ship, maybe a signal flare in the sky. But the stars were gone. Covered, the fog rolled in a natural, thick, gray as ash. It wasn't cold, but it made Jacob's skin crawl. "What is this?" he whispered. Sela turned to him and spoke for the first time that night. "It comes, then?" She dropped the charm, grabbed his hand, and ran. They didn't go toward the beach. They went deeper into the jungle. Branches slapped Jacob's face. His feet stumbled over roots. His heart beat like a drum in his ears. Sela was fast. Too fast. She pulled him like a rag doll, but she never let go of his hand. Behind them, the fog chased like a wave. And within it, shapes moved. Tall shapes, thin arms. No footsteps. Just gliding. One passed by a tree. The tree withered black in seconds. Jacob gasped. "What is that thing?" Sela didn't answer. She just ran faster. They reached a wide clearing, and in the center was a stone hatch, part of the ancient ruins Jacob had seen in the black forest. Sela knelt quickly and placed her hand on a glowing panel beside the hatch. Nothing happened. She cursed softly in her language. Jacob looked back. The fog was almost there. It was swallowing trees whole. "Sela," he shouted. "I need time," she said in broken English. He turned, knife drawn, standing between her and the mist. Then it stepped forward. The shadow, it had no feet, no mouth. Just long arms, dragging along the ground, and a blank, smooth face with white eyes like burning moons. It tilted its head when it saw him. Jacob's legs shook, but he stood firm. "Come on then," he muttered. "I'm not running." He raised one arm, claws like liquid obsidian stretching out now. Sela shouted. The hatch hissed open. Jacob leaped backward, grabbing her arm. They both slid inside, just as the fog touched the edge of the stone. The hatch sealed with a hiss and a loud clang. Darkness. Then silence. Jacob lay there, chest heaving, heart ready to explode. Sella reached out and touched the wall. Blue lights flickered on, dim and soft. They were in a circular chamber, covered in vines and alien markings. Crystals glowed on the ceiling like stars. There were no doors, just smooth stone and old tech. Jacob looked at her. You knew this was here? Sella nodded. It was our temple, a safe place. Long ago, Jacob sat up slowly. What was that thing? Sella looked away, her voice quiet. We called it the. Remember, it was made to punish those who broke the old laws. He blinked. Punish. She nodded. My people, ... We created it. Long ago, to protect the island, but we lost control. It became ... something else. Jacob's stomach dropped. And now, it's hunting me. Sella didn't answer. That was answer enough. Hours passed. They sat against the stone wall. Jacob's hands still shook. His body was tired, but his mind wouldn't stop racing. Finally, he spoke. You saved me again. Sella looked at him. Our silver eyes were soft now, not angry anymore. You are brave. She said quietly and foolish. He gave a weak smile. Yeah, that's kind of the human way. Sella reached into her pouch and pulled out 2 small pieces of dried root. She handed one to him. They chewed in silence. Then she said, This place, ... Only we can open it. My people? That's why I brought you here. It will not enter. Jacob nodded. But we can't stay forever. No, she agreed. Soon. The mist will fade. But next time, it won't stop chasing. He sighed. Then, what do we do? Sella hesitated. Then, slowly, she stood. She walked to the center of the chamber where a crystal pillar rose from the floor. She placed her hand. On it, the pillar lit up. A hologram appeared, stars, charts, symbols Jacob couldn't understand. This is our signal system, she said. It can call help, off-world, but it needs power. Jacob stood beside her. How much? Her lips tightened. Too much. I don't have enough left. Not alone. He looked at her, confused. Left, Sella touched her chest. My energy. My life. The more I use, the less I have. Jacob took a breath, then used mine. She turned to him, shocked. No, it would hurt you. I don't care, he said. If we don't try, we both die here. Sella looked into his eyes. A long silence passed. Then she whispered, Tomorrow. When the fog lifts, we decide. Jacob nodded, but in his heart, he had already made the choice. The sun rose red, not golden, not soft, but red like blood. It poured through the cracks in the stone ceiling of the hidden temple, painting everything with a warning. Jacob opened his eyes. He had barely slept. Sella sat beside the crystal pillar. Her face calm but distant. She had stayed awake the entire night, watching the signal console. Lips moving silently in prayer, maybe fear. He stood and walked over to her. The fog's gone. Sella nodded. Yes, but it will return. And next time, it won't just chase. Jacob took a breath and placed his hand on the pillar. Let's send the signal. Sella's eyes turned to him, soft and shining. Once. It starts, it won't stop until it drains someone. Either you or me. Jacob hesitated. Then we share it. Half each. She shook her head. It doesn't work like that. He stepped closer. I'm not letting you die here. Not after. You saved me. Not after everything. Sella looked away. I don't want your death either. I brought you here to live, not to trade places. Jacob clenched his fists. Then there has to be a way. She reached out and gently touched his forehead. There is, but it will bind us forever. He blinked. Bind us. She lowered her hand to her chest. My people had a ritual. When two lives connect willingly, their energy can merge. It becomes one thread, stronger, shared. Jacob raised an eyebrow. You're saying? Like a bond. Sella nodded. A life bond, not marriage. Not exactly. But ... deeper. Sacred. Jacob hesitated, then smirked slightly. Well, I've had worse first dates. Sella blinked, confused. Then she smiled too, just a little. But her eyes were serious again in seconds. This bond means if one dies, the other feels it. Always, even across galaxies. Jacob looked into her eyes. No fear, just truth and choice. I'm not going anywhere, he said. Let's do it. Sella moved to the center of the stone floor. The blue lights dimmed. The crystal pillar pulsed slowly, as if waiting. She took off her necklace, 3 small stones, tied with silver thread, and placed it in Jacob's hand. Close your eyes, she whispered. He did. She placed both her hands on his chest. Her palms grew warm, then hot, but not painful. Then his heart skipped. He felt something strange. A second heartbeat, not his own, hers. It echoed softly inside him. Not as sound, but as warmth, as presence. Like she had stepped into him. Not physically, but something deeper. She whispered strange words in her language, and Jacob's body lit up with a faint blue glow. The pillar responded, rising, humming, shining bright. The ground trembled. Symbols flickered across the walls. Sella fell to her knees. Jacob caught her. Sella, she gasped but smiled weakly. It's working. The crystal exploded in light, shooting a beam straight through the stone ceiling, piercing the sky like a spear. The signal had been sent. Jacob held her close as her body went limp. Sella, say something. She opened her eyes slowly. I'm here. I just need to rest. He cradled her carefully. You gave too much. She smiled weakly. So did you. He checked himself. His muscles ached. His skin felt burned from the inside. But he was alive. So was she. And something else had changed. He could feel her thoughts. Not words, but feelings. A quiet sadness. A deep fear. A quiet hope. He brushed the hair from her face. I'll carry you if I have to. No, she whispered. We stay here, just until night. The fog will return. Then, ... we hide. Jacob sat beside her, arms around her shoulder, staring up at the hole in the ceiling where the beam had gone through. Do you think someone heard it? Sella closed her eyes. If the stars are kind, ... yes. Hours passed, they rested, shared dried fruit and water. She leaned against him, weaker than before, but still smiling. Then the air shifted. The sky outside turned gray. The wind returned. Jacob looked up. No, ... not again. Sella sat up, her eyes wide. Too soon. The fog rolled over the trees faster this time, like it knew they were still here. Jacob stood, pulling Sella up. We can't stay. She nodded, limping beside him as they reached the hatch. They opened it and stepped back into the jungle. The mist was already near. Jacob held her tightly. We go to the beach. Maybe the rescue ship, but Sella stopped. She turned behind them. It waited the REM, no more hiding in the fog. It stepped out fully tall, skeletal, wrapped in mist. Its face cracked open like a flower of teeth and eyes. Its claws dragged across the earth, leaving black fire. It saw them. And this time it moved fast. Jacob grabbed Sella and ran, heart thudding. Every breath a fire in his chest. But they wouldn't make it. The fog was too thick. The shadow too fast. Then, sound split the sky. A ship. Bright lights from above. A voice over a loudspeaker. Garbled but powerful. Stay where you are. We see you. Jacob looked up, hope flooding through him. Sella collapsed beside him. He caught her, holding her tightly. The creature was almost upon them, but the ship's beam shot down, burning through the fog, hitting the ground. Between them and the monster, the shadow screamed a horrible, inhuman sound and vanished back into the dark trees. Jacob held Sella close as the rescue ship lowered. I told you, she whispered faintly. You would live. He smiled, and so will you. The ship landed. Like thunder, winds roared. Lights swept across the trees. The fog hissed and curled away like it was alive and afraid. Jacob held Sella tightly as the ramp extended. Black armor, bright insignia. 4 figures marched down, helmets glowing, weapons raised. Don't move. The lead voice barked, Jacob. Raised one hand slowly. We're not your enemy. The soldiers surrounded them in seconds. One scanned Jacob. Another scanned Sella. Human male. Federation confirmed. Alien female. Species Zareth. Active energy signature. Unauthorized bonding detected. The third soldier's voice was cold. Terminate. Jacob's blood froze. What? Terminate. She saved my life. The lead soldier stepped forward. This planet is a sealed zone. No Zareth are allowed outside. This boundary, she broke that law by surviving. She didn't break anything, Jacob growled. She was stranded, like me. The soldier stared at him, unmoved. She was left here for a reason. Sella's hand gripped Jacob's tighter. He turned to her. What are they talking about? Her voice was quiet. My people were exiled. The galaxy feared us. Not for what we did, but for what we could become. Jacob stood. She's not a threat. She healed me. She risked her life for me. But the soldiers didn't care. Another stepped forward and raised a pulse weapon. I said, back away from the Zareth. Jacob stepped in front of her. The soldier didn't flinch. Final warning, human. Sella's eyes filled with sorrow. She touched Jacob's arm. Let them take me. It's better than you dying, no, Jacob shouted. We're bonded now. If you die, I feel it. You said so. She nodded, tears falling. Then I will sever the bond. His voice cracked. Don't. The lead soldier looked impatient. You have 5 seconds. And then, a 5th figure walked off the ship. She was taller than the rest. Silver armor, long coat, no helmet. Her eyes were bright yellow and her skin shimmered faintly. Sarah's blood. A half-breed. She raised a hand. Stop, she commanded. The soldiers froze. She looked at Jacob, then at Sella. Then slowly, she knelt in front of Sella. I know who you are, she said softly. You are the last of the Starbinders. Sella nodded weakly. The woman turned to the soldiers. Stand down. The lead soldier frowned. Captain Vera, our orders? She turned sharply. Have changed. This is no longer a termination mission. This is a protection order. The soldiers hesitated, then backed away. Jacob let out a breath. Thank you. But Vera wasn't smiling. She looked at Jacob, eyes serious. You don't understand what you've done. Jacob helped Sella to her feet. I bonded with someone I trust, someone who saved me. Vera crossed her arms. That bond woke up a power the council buried for a reason. The Rememberer isn't just a monster, it's a guardian. It watches for energy bonds between humans and Zareth. Because together, you're unpredictable. Dangerous. Sella leaned against Jacob. We never wanted war. Just to survive. Vera nodded. And yet, survival threatens those in power. The ship's engines whined. The fog was returning again slowly, curling along the edges of the forest. Vera looked up. We need to leave. Now. Jacob narrowed his eyes. Then we're taking her with us. Vera paused. You don't get it. She leaves this planet with you. They'll hunt you both. Forever, you'll be fugitives. Jacob looked at Sela. Her head rested against his shoulder. She was still so weak, still glowing faintly, still beautiful in a way that wasn't just her face, but her soul. He didn't even need to speak. She looked up at him and whispered, I'll go where you go. Jacob faced Vera. Then we run. Vera gave a small, sad smile. So be it. She nodded to the crew. The ramp retracted as the ship lifted off. The fog below twisted like a creature in pain. The Rememberer rose up one last time, arms stretching for the sky. But the ship's shields held, and in seconds, the island vanished beneath the clouds. Inside the ship, silence. Sela lay in a stasis chamber, her energy stabilizing. Jacob sat nearby, hands still shaking. Vera stood across from him. They'll label you a traitor. You know, for protecting her. He nodded. Then I'll wear it proudly. She leaned forward. One question, why her? Why risk your life for an alien you barely knew? Jacob looked at the stasis pod. She didn't just promise me survival, he said quietly. She gave me something to live for. The stars were quiet. Outside the ship's window, they floated like frozen fireflies, carrying eternal cold. Jacob stared at them, hands folded tightly, shoulders tense. The ship moved fast, but not fast enough. Behind them, a council scout vessel had been spotted. The chase had begun. He sat by the stasis pod, where Sela lay still. The glow from her chest had faded. Her breathing was soft, but her skin was cold. Too cold the life bond burned in his chest, faint but steady. Like a thread connecting them both, Captain Vera walked in, her coat hanging loosely. We've got one jump left. After that, we disappear into the edge sectors. Jacob didn't answer. She stepped closer. You haven't left her side in 2 days, he looked up. I can feel her pain. Every hour, it grows. She's slipping. Vera sighed. The bond cost her more than we knew. She gave too much to keep you alive, to send that signal. To fight the Rememberer. Jacob's voice cracked. And I can't even return the favor. Vera opened her hand and dropped something into his palm, a small device, humming softly. It's Sereth tech. Ancient. We pulled it from the temple ruins. It can restore life bond energy, but it only works once. One of you must give, the other receives. Jacob stared at it. You mean? I give her all I have. She nodded. If you do, you'll break the bond. You'll forget her. Everything. Her memories will stay. Yours won't. Jacob clenched his jaw. Forget her? The silver eyes. The way she called his name like it meant more than just sound. The fruit left at his shelter. The night she pulled him through the jungle to save him. He couldn't imagine not remembering. And yet, she would live. He looked at Vera. Will she survive? Vera nodded. But she'll remember everything. You'll become a stranger. Jacob looked down at Sela's face. Peaceful, beautiful, fading his. Heart ached. He didn't speak again. He pressed the device to his chest and everything went white. Time passed. Jacob woke in a small room, bright and unfamiliar. Machines hummed softly. His body felt weak, but light. He sat up slowly, blinking. A figure stood in the doorway. A woman, tall, silvery skin, long violet hair, a soft smile on her lips. She stepped in, holding something in her hands, a necklace made of 3 stones tied with silver thread. Hi, she said, her voice calm, warm. You're awake. Jacob stared at her. Do I know you? Her smile didn't fade. Not anymore. He touched his chest. A strange emptiness sat there. She stepped forward and gently placed the necklace into his hand. You gave me everything, even if you don't remember. Jacob blinked. Why? Why does that hurt? Because love leaves. A shadow, she said softly, even when the light is gone. He looked at her again. His heart beat faster, but his mind remained blank. I'm sorry, he whispered. She shook her head. Don't be. You chose to save me. That's more than most would do. Vera appeared behind her. The council lost your trail. You're free. Sella turned to Vera. And him, Vera sighed. New ID, new life. He'll remember nothing of the planet, or of you. He'll start fresh on Terry's station. Sella turned back to Jacob. He held the necklace, unsure why he wanted to cry. She reached forward and touched his forehead gently. I hope you find someone who looks at you the way I once did. Then she turned and walked away. Jacob sat there, holding the necklace. The ship's engines rumbled. He never noticed that a single tear slid down his cheek. A week later, Terry stationed Jacob worked in a small repair shop. He didn't talk much, didn't smile much either. But every night, before sleep, he took out a strange necklace. 3 stones. Silver thread. He didn't know why he kept it. Didn't even know who gave it to him. But something deep inside Barry told him it mattered. One evening, he sat outside, watching the stars. A child ran by chasing a glowing drone. An older couple laughed nearby. Jacob just sat still until a voice beside him, soft, familiar. Double quotes. Hello again. He turned and saw her, Sella. She wore a traveler's cloak. Her hair was down. Her eyes, still silver, met his. You, he said. We've met, haven't we? She smiled gently. Not exactly. He held up the necklace. I think you gave me this. Sella sat beside him. Would you believe me if I said you gave it to me first? He stared into her eyes. Something in his chest fluttered. Pain, joy, both. I don't understand. She looked at the stars. You don't have to. He leaned back. Do you believe in second chances? Sella looked at him and whispered, only when the heart remembers what the mind forgets. They sat there in silence, and for the first time in days, Jacob smiled.